Good morning again. Sorry, a little technical difficulty there. I hope you all come back. Happy Mother's Day. I am a marriage and family therapist and mental health counselor. And today was just kind of one of those days where technical issues. I spilled my beautiful vase of orange roses this morning 2 minutes before I was supposed to come on. So we could just laugh at that and have fun. And welcome back to Liz Live Mother's Day Special. I do this every year for followers, clients, friends. And we know that at 11 a.m. every Mother's Day, we can get together and we can send a tribute to the person that we loved and lost. And I'm so sorry, Eva. I saw that you were watching and we got cut off. So I hope everybody finds this link and comes back. If not, you can watch it afterwards, but we have to live with these kind of things. Happy Mother's Day, right? Mothers are the ones who have to stay calm and keep it cool. And what I was asking is anyone who's watching, anybody who wants to watch, please feel free to write the name of the person you loved and lost and dedicate this time, this hour that we're going to spend together, to someone that you loved and lost. And if you want to share a story about them, I would love to hear it. This is a time where we can all be together and we all understand each other. We all understand that Mother's Day isn't always a super happy celebration for those of us who lost a child, for those of us who've lost a mom, or even those of us who, lost a partner and don't have them to celebrate us as a mother. Or someone I was thinking about would be maybe somebody who never got to have children and they wanted one, or they lost a baby. Mother's Day, any kind of milestone or holiday, will often hit us. And I can tell you, having lost both my parents by the time I was 36, every holiday or celebration that would be fun was always filled with grief and tears as just a natural occurrence. Because when we're making big steps in our lives, or we're taking a day to celebrate someone specific, we miss them. And that is totally normal. So I think the goal of today is, one, to say hello and just be, create a warm, nice energy for us all to connect into this morning. And it's also to normalize the grieving process, because we know that these kind of holidays, whether they're the Hallmark holidays or your religious holidays, and mom isn't here, this is a tough one. And I want to talk about moms specifically, because it doesn't matter whether you have children or you don't. Everybody's welcome here. And it doesn't matter whether your mom is alive or not alive. There's so many different situations that can hit us on Mother's Day. I could go on and on. So all are welcome here. And if you want to write again in the chat the person that you loved and lost that you want to be remembered, please do so. And if you feel more comfortable keeping it to yourself, that's fine too. Just keep them in mind, because this hour we are dedicating to any mother. And please, if there's going to be technical difficulties, we have to live through them. That was number 2. And I've only been on air for 3 minutes. So let's hop into it. And I'm going to start off by sharing a very special story about these roses. Okay. And I buy them on Mother's Day for my mother. So my mother's favorite rose were peach roses. And they can sometimes be challenging to find, but they represent my mother's presence. Whenever I see peach roses, I think of her. And if I ask for a sign that my mother is near, I'll often bump into peach roses. So these are a little more on the orange side, but there's a reason for that. So when my mother died, we buried her with peach roses. That was her favorite, and she loved gladiolas also. But anyway, so my mother loved peach roses. And so when it's my birthday or a certain celebration, special people will sometimes in my life who know they will buy me the closest they can get to peach roses so that I feel like my mom is here. And this is something that my dance instructor did for me, which was so sweet. And so I bought these roses for me and my doggies to remember my beautiful mother today. And I loved and lost my mom, oh my gosh, 13 years ago. She died of lung and brain cancer. And I had the honor and pleasure of taking care of her at the end of life, which was a very big gift, as hard as it was. We see these things as gifts because, you know, first of all, most of us think we can't get through something like that, but we do. Anyone who's been a caretaker to someone who's dying understands this. We never think we're going to get through it, but somehow we do, because the human spirit is very strong. And that's something I want to highlight today. And I want to give you some tips and hear your stories about who's special that you're missing. Is it your mom? Is it your husband who used to celebrate Mother's Day? Your wife, your child? There's so many people who are touched on a day like today. So that's my special orange peachy rose story. And excuse me. And I am a doggy mom. I have 3 little dogs that are the loves of my life. And so I'm definitely a mom to them. And they're laying on my lap right now, which is awesome. Maybe you have a pet that you're a mother to. But there's something special about a mom, because no matter what, it feels like nobody quite loves you like a mom. And mothers, you know, some people, let's be real, some people didn't have very good relationships with their mothers, and they count today too. Everybody's welcome here. But for those of us who did have a close relationship with our mothers, or maybe both, you know, my mom and I used to fight like cats and dogs all through my teenage years, but then we became best friends ultimately. And that's a more realistic mother-daughter relationship. It's not always just perfect, right? So we might be thinking all kinds of things about our mothers today, whether they're alive or they're not. But there is a certain bond and a certain love between a mother and a child that is so intense and so strong. And that's what sometimes makes those relationships go haywire, because they're a little too enmeshed. But today we're thinking, and we're here in the space to honor those of us who have moms or some relationship special today that we're missing. So I want everyone to just keep that person in the forefront of your mind. And we're going to just dedicate this time today to all of our mothers or all of our loved ones. And I do this in memory and honor of my mom, Arlene Statlander. I love you and I miss you every day. Okay, that being said, what are some of the things that you may be going through on Mother's Day? Well, I've been through it all, so I can name them. First of all, when my mom first died, or if anyone's in fresh grief today, meaning, you know, your loved one has only been gone a few months or a year, anything under a year, even 2 years, is really, really fresh grief. So these kind of days, I remember when my mom first died, the first couple years, our day together was Mother's Day. I used to fly from Miami to Pittsburgh, spend the weekend with her. Sometimes I would surprise her. And so the first few Mother's Days without her were not fun. I cried a lot and I isolated a lot. So if that's you today, this day will pass. And what I did the first couple years is I just pretended like it wasn't Mother's Day. And is that avoidance? Yes. But guess what? It helped. So the first couple years without my mom, I would get up in the morning, I would start to cry because I would, you know, really miss cherishing that day with her. And I would try to pretend like it wasn't really happening. So I isolated myself in the house, or I did something to not, you know, make it feel like Mother's Day. And this can work. So if you're really fresh in the grief, and this is only the first Mother's Day without your mom or your child, and you want to just isolate, guess what? You're allowed. It's entitled. And it doesn't mean you're unhealthy or you're wrong. We form whatever coping skills that we can to get through grief. And people who've never experienced grief don't understand the, I would say, intensity of the feeling. And so if you're spending today in bed or isolating yourself, it's quite all right. And what it shows is that you're taking care of yourself on a day that could be really, really difficult for you. And there's nothing wrong with a little avoidance. You know, I don't buy into the things where you have to face everything. No, you don't. You don't really have to face anything until you're ready. So if today is an isolating day for you, good for you. Good for taking care of yourself, and thank you for being here because I'm honored. Some other ways as time goes on that we may want to honor our mothers, we try to do a lot of external things, like we might go to the grave, we might start a tradition like that, we might have a special meal that our mothers would have liked, or like in my case, I buy my mother's favorite flowers every year to just honor her memory. Why do we do this? Because it keeps us feeling connected. And the whole goal of grief therapy in general is to keep us connected to the person who we loved and lost, because they're not gone, they're with us, but the form in which they are with us obviously has changed. They're not in the physical realm with us. They're not in our daily life. And I remember in my early years of grieving my mother, people would say that to me. Elizabeth, she's gone, but she's not really gone. You can talk to her. And I used to think, screw you. That's really what I thought. Because I wasn't in the form, the emotional form where I could take that in. I was still angry. And this is so normal. This is what I do for a living. I specialize in grief, and these things are really normal. So if you're angry and you're isolating today, or you want to pretend like it isn't happening, good for you. Not a problem. Don't let anyone tell you it's a problem. Just do what you need to do to get through the day. If you have other external things, like I said, you want to buy roses or go to the gravesite, eat your mom's favorite meal, or carry on a Mother's Day tradition, that's great too. Because how we stay connected to people that we've loved and lost is very personal. And one thing I learned in my grief training is that it's all good. As long as you're not hurting anybody or hurting yourself, whatever you need to do to get through today, you do it. And sometimes what I would do in my early grieving years is not only would I isolate and try and pretend like it wasn't Mother's Day, but I would do things that I really enjoyed for myself. So if you're feeling really down today, think about your favorite thing to do, not necessarily your mom or someone who died. Think about, okay, how can I be really kind to myself? What traditions can I create in their absence? And this works a lot with clients too. So I've had many clients who have been very close to their moms and lost them, sometimes suddenly without warning. And in these times, what I really want to do is, sorry, there's a text coming in. What I really want to do is suggest that you start a new tradition. So for example, I couldn't fly to Pittsburgh and spend Mother's Day with my mom anymore right after she died. So I started creating a new tradition once I got over the first couple years and I was not so isolative and angry. Then as I started to accept the loss, you get a little more comfortable with it. And I would say, okay, every Mother's Day, I'm going to do yoga, go out to lunch with a friend, and go shopping. That's what I would do. I love to shop, so I would go shopping. And my mom liked to shop too, so it was kind of something that we could do together. Now, I will say this, that if you're someone who this is a hard day for, when you go out, it's difficult because you're going to see all these people gathering together in restaurants with flowers and plants and things we do for Mother's Day, and it's going to pull on your heartstrings a little bit. And one thing that my clients ask me a lot when it comes to grief and Mother's Day is they say, is it weird that I feel jealous of people who are out celebrating with their families? And my answer was not at all. And being able to, own that and say, yeah, I feel kind of jealous of people who have their mom, or people who are out celebrating and I don't have my mom. This is so normal. I mean, I've heard this from probably 50 people in my 18 years. And I felt it a little bit too. When you see it, it kind of pulls on your heartstrings. So that's why isolating and staying home isn't necessarily a bad idea. And eventually creating a new tradition that maybe has nothing to do with your mom or your child, that's okay too. Be kind to yourself, because this day is hard for you. So what the goal is to try and make it easier on yourself. And don't let anyone push you and tell you, oh, you should just go out, or oh, you should just do this, or oh, you have to learn how to not self-abandon on these types of days. There's going to be birthdays, there's going to be other holidays, but we have to learn that it's okay to carry our needs and fulfill our needs and not necessarily everybody else's, because this is a hard day for us. So one of the ideas that I had for one of my clients, I remember, who lost her mom suddenly, and they were very, very close. They even lived together. She was really dreading, I think it was either Thanksgiving morning or it might have been Mother's Day. And she had, a tradition that she did with her mother every year. And I said, well, hey, let's come up with a new tradition. So we did. And she, thankfully had people in the house. She had a husband. And I said, call your friends to come over. They'll support you. And she was a very social person, so it was better for her to be social than isolate. And she started doing like a mimosa breakfast every year. So now, instead of the traditional Mother's Day when her mom is gone, she has something to look forward to. So I can't stress enough how much this works. It is silly or as, insignificant as it may sound. These things really work, because even though our moms aren't here, we are still here. And getting through the grief journey is learning basically how to go on in life without this person. And this is no easy task. It's no easy task. But one of them is, instead of repeating traditions that amplify their absence, we create new things around just us to make sure that we feel loved and happy on that day. I even remember last year, one of my neighbors, last year I was alone, and one of my friends, she said, you're not going to be alone today. She said, come on over and we're going to open a bottle of wine and order food in and whatever. It was so simple, and it made such a difference. Okay. So these are some really nice ideas for you, or even someone that you love who's maybe having a hard day. Because any day that, highlights the absence of something can be difficult, right? So the second suggestion I have for you is, don't fight the grief. And this is something, a piece of advice I give to everybody, all my clients, because grief is a funny emotion. It doesn't go away because you push it away. And I can personally testify to this, and I could get many clients to concur that when we avoid grief and we push it away, it doesn't just go away, it will sneak back up on you. I actually call grief sneaky, because it comes and goes in waves. So, one day you could be perfectly fine, laughing, enjoying yourself, not thinking about the loss, just into life. And then you could hear a song or a smell, or drive down a road, or bump into a photograph or something in your home, and boom, it's going to send you right into some deep grief. So we think of grief as the ocean, because it comes in and it comes out, and it comes in and it comes out. And that's normal, to be expected. So if you've been doing pretty well, as far as well-meaning, you've been functional during the grief process, and today you're just kicked, that's okay. because your emotions are flowing. Emotions are very temporary, so they come in and they come out. And when we push away any emotion, but especially grief, it doesn't disappear. It literally sits in the body and it sits in our energy field, which is why many people wind up getting very sick during the grieving process. If you know anyone who's grieving right now, very early on, they get stomach aches, they get colds, and these are proven facts that when people are really depressed, really grieving, really anxious, it hurts our immune system. So that emotional energy gets stuck in our system, and it does put pressure on our immune system, and we get more colds, we miss more days of work, we lay in bed more. So don't be so hard on yourself. And just, if this is happening to you, just say, okay, this is part of the grieving process, and allow it. And many people will ask me, well, how do you allow grief to pass through you? How does one do that? And it's kind of a weird concept, but what I tell my clients to do is when you're feeling that wave of grief or that wave of sadness or that wave of anxiety, instead of trying to like push it off and distract it, that's called resistance, and that often makes it worse. Say to yourself, I'm going to allow this sadness to pass through me. And imagine, I always say, imagine like this portal opening up above your head, passing through the body into the ground. Close your eyes and just say, I allow the sadness to pass through me. And just take a breath and let it pass. And I swear to God, this helps, because you're allowing your emotions to go through and pass. It's kind of like water. Think of emotions like water. If you try to stop water from coming through, but it's still pushing down, water gets through every crack, right? We all know that. Grief and really any emotion is the same. So when we get these waves of grief, these waves of sadness, just close your eyes, take a deep breath, and say to yourself, I allow this grief to pass through me. And it will. And you'll be surprised, maybe in 5 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, it will just pass through you. And sometimes, I do this myself, but sometimes it works beautifully with anxiety, because the more we fight our depression, or we fight our anxiety, or we fight our grief, the more emotional energy we're using to push it away, and the more exhausted we get. So open up the portal, take a deep breath, allow those emotions to come through you, and just be. You don't have to perform happiness if you don't want to. You don't have to perform wellness if you don't want to. And if you have other people around you, friends, family members, whatever, who are pushing you and saying, come on, snap out of it, let's move on, those are probably not people you want to be around on a day like this. And we all have them in our family. And when we have those problems, hold on one second, I'm going live. So during those times, this is what we have to deal with. Sorry, had a little interruption there. So this is the way that grief comes through us, passes through us, and it takes time. It really does. It takes a lot of time. So when we have people who don't understand grief, I hear this complaint a lot from my clients. A lot. And when we have people who are denying our feelings or almost asking us not to have feelings, you start to think, am I crazy? Am I going crazy? Is there something wrong with me? Because you want to feel these things, but other people are telling you not to feel this. Or even sometimes they'll have a backhanded comment, or they'll roll their eyes, or they're trying to push you. And grief is hard for everybody. It's hard for not just the griever, but it's hard for friends and family that want you to be okay, that want you to be well, that want you to have good things, that want you to do well. So they may be very well intended, but doesn't always happen, right? Because they want you back. And this is, an issue I see in family grief a lot, because our friends and our family, they want us back. They want us to be ourselves, and we're just not going to be. And quite frankly, we're never really the same after grief. We're never the same. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing, but something that we all will have to face at some point in our grief is that when we lose someone who is very significant in our lives, we have to somehow make a new normal. And that can take years. And I don't mean to scare anybody by saying it could take years, but what I mean is there are time periods that we need to, number one, digest the loss. Number two, to understand that this changes our life forever, and that we have to create a life without this person in the physical. That doesn't mean necessarily that we have to change our life in every aspect, but we have to think of new ways to get on and create a life still remaining connected to that person in our hearts and in our minds, but maybe not so much in the physical. So something I recommend, number one, when you're grieving, you really have to take a lot of time. You have to have, I remember one man coming in who lost his wife, and he said, I'd like to get over this by spring. Okay. And it was like January. And he got so mad at me because I told him, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to lie to you. Grief doesn't work like that. It could take, you're not going to be better by spring. It's not grief. It's not something that you just wake up and you get over. Grief is something that you learn to live with. And as long as you allow yourself to feel that grief, and you're going to have, maybe the first year is tough. The first year is disorienting. So if you're newly grieving somebody, meaning within like the past year or two, be patient with yourself. Because this is what I think of it. When we lose our mom or anyone that we love that we're close to, they're part of our security system, if you will. They're part of the roots of the tree. So if we're trees, our roots that keep us stable and connected are our relationships, and especially our parents. So when one of those people, if our mother, our child dies, it's literally like ripping a well-rooted tree out of the ground. Literally. So if you imagine a tree being ripped out of the ground, then how would you replant that tree so that it can grow again? And you can imagine it would take time. It would take a lot of people to clean up the area, to clean off each root of that tree and make space for it, and to lift that tree up, and the care that it would take. That's what grief is like. It's like being ripped out of the ground and all your roots are exposed. And this is why grief therapy is so important. It's so important. And it's a family situation. It's not just one of us. It's whoever is close to us in our lives is going to be affected by this loss. So I can't urge you enough to reach out to me for grief therapy, to watch resources like this, and journal your feelings, and allow yourself to be a little downtrodden for a while. And don't be mad at yourself because you can't snap out of it, because it takes time. It really does. So let's shift now we understand a little bit about grief process and what's normal and things you can do on certain days like this. Let's talk about emotionally how we can rebuild, and how we can, and hi everybody, thank you so much for coming here today. Let's talk about how we can stay connected to this person And when we think about staying connected to our moms or children, whomever, we have to, one, understand, okay, they're not in the physical anymore. So we feel the absence. And grief is often the feeling of the absence of this person. You know, you pick up the phone to call them. You have a day like today where they're not there, they're not with you to celebrate or to hold on to your certain traditions. All these different things. So let's think about ways we can stay connected. And the idea is to carry the grief, but not drowned in it. And again, all of this takes time. And I want to explain the difference between really carrying the grief and then feeling connected. So when we really carry grief, we can become completely saturated and overwhelmed. Meaning, you know, we just can't stop thinking about them. We're crying constantly. We isolate. We don't want to go anywhere. And again, a normal process. But as time goes on, I often will ask myself, my clients, what would this person want for us? And I think we could collectively agree that the person we loved and lost would not want you to throw away your life because somebody died. Nobody would want that for you. And so in time, we come to that understanding. And we say, okay, I have to find a way to go on. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm really not sure. But how can I stay connected to this person without drowning in the loss and the absence? And my first suggestion is to hold the memory alive. So instead of thinking about the absence of, we think about the presence of. So I think to myself today, okay, what would my mom want for me on this day? And she would love what I'm doing right now. She would love it. She would, okay, this is wonderful. You're doing what you love. You're helping people. You're talking to people who are grieving. You're trying to uplift people. You've got the experience and you're a professional therapist. Good job, Elizabeth. I know she would love this. And then she would want me to enjoy the day. She would probably say, spend the day with your brothers, or, you know, enjoy the dogs, take yourself to lunch, you know, be with the friends. And I would almost guarantee that any of your moms or children or people that you've loved and lost would say, don't cry for me all day. Please, you know, think about what I would want for you and do that. And when we can do this, this becomes kind of like a turning point in the grief. And sometimes it doesn't come right away. I would say for me, with the various significant losses I've had, it takes a good year plus for me to reach this point. But when we reach it, we're kind of like, okay, we start to wake up and say, okay, this person has died. I cannot bring them back, but I can keep them alive. So the first thing I'm going to do is think about, what would they want for me today? They would want me to smile, and they would want me to be happy, and then they would want me to do my passion, and they would want me to pursue what I love, and so on and so forth, because you know what this person would want for you more than I do. I'm just giving generalities. So we can take little steps to doing those things on a day like today or on any day. Think about what they've left in your heart. So I often think, the funny joke is we all say, oh God, I don't want to be like my mom when I grow up. But inevitably, we all wind up very much like our mothers in one way or the other. So sit back and think, okay, do I have my mother's mannerisms? Do I have my daughter's mannerisms, right? What do we share? What did we love to do together? What connected us? So if everyone would just take a moment and just think about this person that you've dedicated today for, and think about, what really connected us? What brought us together? What did we have in common? Was it our values? Was it, you know, certain habits, our lifestyle, whatever? And do more of that. Because truthfully, this is how we keep them alive. We keep people alive by carrying on their values, by imagining what they would want for us in a moment or what they would say to us. Some people will tell me, Elizabeth, my mother would be so mad at me if I didn't go to her grave on Mother's Day. And I say, okay, I get that. My mom, she might say that too. So then go. Do what connects you to this person. It could even be down to wearing something that's theirs, right? So today I have these are my mother's, and I have them on my dress today, they're pins. It could be anything. Now, clearly, jewelry, a pin isn't really connecting me to her, but it makes me think of her. It's like wearing a part of her. And then I can think of what we might be doing today, or all the different parts of me that are like her, and what she taught me and what I learned from her. And those things keep us connected, and I can honor her by doing more of those things and remembering what she raised me to be. And we can think about, what did our mothers really want for us? And if you get a chance, you could rewatch this and really start journaling. I love journaling. And just write down little sentences. My mom taught me to be brave, or my mom taught me to be determined, or my mother was the one who pushed me when I felt like I couldn't go further, and then act accordingly. Because beyond any tradition, beyond any, food or piece of jewelry, what really keeps us connected is remembering the personality and remembering what they gave to us in our lives. What did we admire most about them? These are things that keep that relationship going on all the time for the rest of your life. And I can promise you, I'm 13 years out of my mother's death, and it doesn't hurt as bad. I promise you, it will become, the pain becomes less intense. If I can survive it, you can survive it. I promise you. But we may need some help on the way, and we need little pieces of information like this to help us really pick ourselves up, shake ourselves off, and go forward. And when we go forward, we're not leaving them behind. We're going forward with them in mind, because that's what they would want. Sometimes we forget, sometimes we forget, and we think that I can't enjoy life without them, or they would want me to be miserable, or how can I go celebrate Mother's Day when they're not here to celebrate with me? And those are just cultural conditionings. That's not real. So when you strip all that cultural conditioning away and you really think, okay, what does my mom want me for today? Moms love their daughters and their sons and their grandchildren and their pets, and they want our happiness. And if we can hang our hat on this, we start to turn a corner. And this will usually happen around 1 year to 1.5 years out. Something like that. So we have to see the grieving process as a journey. I wish it were short. I wish there was a magic pill. I wish there was a wand I could wave. But instead of that, I offer my services and myself here to help those of you who are grieving, because it is a journey. And you do need a hand to hold to get through it. You really do. You really do. So what are those things that connect us to that person that we can keep in the forefront of our minds? What are the actions we can take? What are the decisions we can make? What are the relationships that we can nurture and nourish to keep us feeling alive and together with that person? And this is where we start to change. So depending about where you are in the grieving process, it's different for everybody. Some people may be further along, and some people might be, very early in the process. So different stages in the process need different things, right? Everybody needs something different. but I'm trying to be as general as I can today to help everybody get through this. So we know that the grieving process takes time, and you're so welcome. I don't have my glasses on, but I think it's Kelly, and you're so welcome. Thank you for watching, and I'm so happy that people are joining a lot today because I know this is a big issue for a lot of people. I want to speak specifically to not just people who are missing their moms, but I want to speak specifically to people who are missing a child, because this is a different kind of loss. It's all horrible. It all stinks. It's all a life game changer. But I've worked with quite a few moms and dads who have lost a child. And this burns, from what I've seen, this burns the heart in a little bit of a different way. And what I believe, the reason it burns a little, I'm going to say more intensely, although I don't like to compare grieving processes, but the reason it really burns deeply is because we feel responsible. We bring this child into the world and we feel responsible for their care. So when they pass away young, we obviously start blaming ourselves, even though it wasn't our fault at all. But this is something that I work with parents a lot, especially children who maybe died in an accident or drug overdoses. Parents will blame themselves. It was my fault. I should have seen it. I should have known it's coming. And the reality is, no, you really shouldn't have. This is something that's out of our control, but this is another show, and I don't want to get too off the mark here. But I just wanted to send a special acknowledgement out to those of you who have lost children, because this burns in a specific way. And clinically, nobody really knows why, but my guess is because we form this child, we bring it into the world, we raise it, we nurture it, and we always feel like it's our responsibility, even when the child is 50 and we're 70. Doesn't matter. We always feel a certain responsibility, and we blame ourselves when the child dies young. And so I want to say to any of you out there who are going through this to please reach out, because this is a very, very difficult situation, very complex. And there's also that cultural conditioning that says our children are never supposed to go before us. And so when they do, it's like double shocking. And these deaths affect everybody. Large families, the immediate family, the extended family, the community at large. I mean, it's complicated. So today is so difficult for those of us who have lost children. And I just want to acknowledge you. And again, there's always a place to turn to for help. And the interesting thing about mothers, my hair keeps tickling my nose and it's making it itchy. Sorry about that. One of the things that makes it so hard for mothers who've lost children is it's the loss of a life purpose. This was my purpose, right? Our children become our life purpose. So when that's gone, what do we do now? And I think also for all of us today, there is the missing of a certain closeness. And I think missing a mom or missing a child, it's that the closeness, the intimacy of that bond. It's that one person that you were always loved by. And losing that unconditional love can be daunting. And what I try to teach my clients, and I'm going to suggest to all of you, is we can't replace that. We can't replace that. But we can learn how to give it to ourselves. And that's a whole nother journey as well, is learning how to love ourselves unconditionally. You know, you hear often in religious ceremonies, you love yourself the way God loves you, or see yourself the way God sees you, you know, with perfect eyes and unconditional love. And I would say the same thing for our mothers, right? See us, see yourselves the way your mother saw you or your child saw you, because this is the truest form of love. And it is known to be in the parent-child's, mama-child's connection. And that's something we really, really miss. But there are ways to go on. So if you're seeing this today and you're joining us today, thank you so much, because you're all supporting each other too. Because when one of us sees that someone else understands and is going through the same thing, it lifts our spirits. And we get inspiration and we know, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person who misses my mom today, or I'm not the only person grieving today or having a hard day. There are other people out there. And when grief is modeled by others, and we have support groups, and we know other people are feeling this and we're not alone, we feel less isolated, we feel less misunderstood, and we feel not alone. So just being here and sharing your energy with me and other people is tremendous. And I hope that you will like and share and send this video on to other people, share it on your Facebook posts, because I believe it will be really helpful. So I'm going to just kind of recap in its conclusion everything that we talked about today, so we can use it for today and try to have a pleasant day, even for those of us that have a hard day. So first thing I want to remind you is grief comes in waves. It comes and it goes, and it comes and it goes. And if you're laughing and smiling 1 minute and then woke up today because it's Mother's Day, like really cranky or really sad, good. Honor your feelings. You don't have to perform wellness or perform happiness, and you're allowed to do whatever you want to do to make yourself feel better today. So if we want to isolate and pretend Mother's Day isn't happening, we're certainly allowed to do that. If we would rather, go out and do something outside of the house that makes us feel better, do it. If you want to lay in bed and watch movies and eat ice cream, do it. I always encourage my clients who are depressed, be as depressed as you can be. Turn down the sunlight, get into bed, and eat lots of ice cream, because you have to let it pass through you or get stuck. So, speaking of, when we feel grief, when we feel the sadness, when we feel the anxiety, we let it pass through us in that moment. And I always tell my clients, imagine that there's a portal opening up above your head, and that emotion is coming down through that portal, down through the body and out through the feet, back into the earth, and let it pass. Because when we fight our emotions, when we fight our grief, when we deny it, we're resisting what is, and we make it worse. And yes, I know people who are depressed because they're depressed, or anxious because they're anxious. So the kindest thing you can do for yourself is allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling. And remember, emotions are so temporary. They come and they go. And that might be the best thing to know about grief, is it's not necessarily always intense. The intensity comes and goes and comes and goes. And any milestone or Hallmark holiday will amplify the grief. So we need to support each other on certain days like this. And while we're grieving and we're feeling sad today, or we're missing whoever we're missing, think about what keeps us connected to them. So rather than thinking about and focusing on the absence of that person, we think about the presence of that person. We think about what they stood for, what they taught us, what we carry in our physical being, or in our hand gestures. My mom always used her hands. Hand gestures, our smile, our values, and honor and amplify those gifts and those lessons, so that we understand that we're really carrying their legacy on through us every day, and we can teach it to our children and share it with our friends and share it with our loved ones. And so all is not lost. And we also have to think about, what would our moms want for us today? What would they say to you if they were here right now? Would they say, oh, go sit at home and isolate and don't talk to anyone? Maybe. But chances are they would probably say, go do something you love. Do something that makes you happy. Or at the very least, do something that gives you a little bit of a break from missing me. And for what it's worth, although I'm not really discussing it in today's show, but I will discuss it in an upcoming show, I am a very big believer in life after death. I've trained for 6 years or so to read energy, practice healing, and even, some mediumship. And it's not something I, really talk about a lot, but it is part of my life. And I can promise you that your loved one is not gone. They have simply transferred a realm, and that they can see us. And when we think of them, we're ringing their doorbell. So don't think for a minute that they're not present with you, because they are. Whether you believe it or not, they are. And maybe one day we'll do a show sharing stories about signs people have gotten and miracles from those who have passed on. But no matter what you believe, they are and will live on in your hearts, in your soul, and in your mind, in everything you do, in every choice you make, and in every decision you make, because they are part of you. Especially if it's your mom or your child. They are literally part of you. So on that note, I hope you guys think about what I said, replay the show, share it with those of your friends who may be also having a hard day today, and honor yourself more than anybody. And I send a love and a blessing of love to you and all those you have lost. And may their memories be a blessing. I thank you so much for being here today. And simply, if you need grief counseling or any kind of counseling, please reach out to me. You can go to my website, upliftmeliz.com, and all you have to do is click and text me. My phone number's all over the place. It's very easy to find. And just text me, hi, my name is Lisa, and, I'm looking for grief counseling, and I will get right back to you. That's all you have to do to begin working with me. It's that simple. There's no letters you have to write. There's no secretaries you have to talk to. Just click, get my phone number, and text me, and I will get back to you just as soon as I can, and we can set something up for you. So with that, I send you lots of love and blessings. If you're a mom, happy Mother's Day. If you are missing your mom, I feel you. I get it. I miss my mom too today. And if you're missing a child, just think about children. Think about your child and what they love the most about you, and focus on that today. And with that, I wish everyone a happy Mother's Day and a happy spring. And I will see you tomorrow for Liz Live at 3 p.m. on Facebook. Have a great day, everybody, and thank you so much for being here.